Hello, good evening and welcome to UPfront. Today, we'll take a look at one specific ministry that was created with a purpose to make sure that inner cities and the Zongo sector of our country is actually given an uplift. What's been happening in this ministry in the last 10 months and projecting into the next year, since we already have the budget for 2018, what's the plan for the new year? When I return from this break, I'll let you know who my guest is and what the conversation's cracks will be. You're welcome back. My guest today to have a discussion, and we are putting a huge spotlight on the Inner Cities and Zongo Development Ministry. And that particular ministry has been in the news, especially recently. The Zongo Development Bill was passed after it was withdrawn at a point in time and put back before the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. We should be finding out exactly what's happening and what's been happening prior to the passage of this bill. The Honourable Member of Parliament for Medina, and I start with Medina because it's interesting, he was in Salaga for 2 terms. Then he lost. Then he actually came down to Medina. One of the few people, apparently the only person, who's traversed 2 different regions and been able to win in these. His name is Honourable Abubakar Siddiq. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
I hope you are doing well.
Very well.
Well, I've not had the chance of asking you how you were able to do that history, but it's interesting. We thought Amadou Sorogo was not one you can remove easily by any standard shred of imagination, but you did it.
Well, I think everything has a starting point.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for coming. And before I proceed to answer that question, let me take this opportunity to express my deepest condolence to the entire multimedia fraternity, and especially to the family of my good friend, Kaba, who lost his life just a few days ago. And as we Muslims, we understand death. We believe that if you don't die, you have not completed the cycle of life. Okay. A second phase of life begins when you die. And that is why within the scriptures, it tells you that if you live for the Lord. If you die for the Lord. Whether you live or die, you belong to the Lord. And Shakespeare would tell you that the world is a stage, and humans are the players. There's time for entry and time for exit. Death is a necessary end that will come where it must come. I've lost a very good friend of mine. Kaba played a very great role in my campaign and advice. But what can I say? What do you like? God likes it most because it was God who brought him on this earth. He's finished playing his part, but we don't understand. And one thing we will often see in Islam is that we have a verse that says, Kullu nafs Zaikatul Maut. Every creation of God would taste the pain of death. And if you hear Muslims say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, from where we came is where we go back. So it's so painful, but once these 2 verses come to mind, then you understand it very well.
Of course.
So my condolence goes to the family. They should take heart and believe and pray that he's resting in the bosom of the Lord. That is all I can say. And I wish my friends to keep it calm, especially multimedia. In fact, I was there, I think, Friday night on sports. And I asked of him, thinking that I'll see him the following day. But unfortunately, not knowing that was the last time I will have been mentioning his name for the world. I wish him well, wherever he might find himself. But coming back to the substantive matter that has to do with my senior brother Sorgo, I've always said one thing, that Zongos, all Zongos in this country were given birth by Salaga, except one, and that is Ketikrachi.
Okay.
For the sake of one very important person that every Muslim acknowledges, who is Malam Moru Karchi. He is more or less a brother to Mala Lasan of Salaga. And you know, 2 stars cannot live together.
That's interesting.
So he had to move from Salaga to Sawaba Sawaba to Atebubu, Atebubu to a town called Shafa, and from Shafa he finally settled in Karachi. As I speak, the tomb of Malik Mor Karachi is in the middle of the Volta Lake. But whenever it recedes, the way he was buried, the tomb is still the same.
Oh, okay.
So people normally go to pay homage, you know. So, and fortunately, I have lived in Medina for about 32 years. So the people in Medina know me very well. Even when I decided to go and contest in 2000.
You didn't choose to contest that place.
When I chose to go and contest in Salaga in 2000, the people of Medina protested because they felt this was my prime time with them, and had lived there for those number of years. So they expected that I should rather contest in Salaga.
So you were just MP waiting?
Yes, so to speak.
In the
point was that I chose to go to Salaga.
Area, in a predominant Muslim area, yes, you are less likely to be the person winning, except they did something extraordinary.
Well, first of all, I identified myself with the people, and I believe humility also counts. I see everybody as my equal. I don't play that kind of life where somebody sees you and you want to play it very big.
So that's what got you the thing?
It's ordinary.
You are not richer than the
No.
MP.
I'm not richer than the MP. I'm not any
You didn't tell
person.
the people that he was incompetent because he's not done anything for the people?
Well,
you did say that.
It could be a factor, because I have never mounted a platform to attack the personality of a person. Throughout my political career. Any politician, I will condemn probably your policies, but I will not condemn you as a person.
Anyway, now to the ministry. It was set up with a lot of promise, and some of us were wondering what was the president up to when he set up this particular ministry. Later on, it dawned on us that there was an agenda to pursue with the naming of this ministry.
Sure.
But 10 months into coming into force, I've not seen a single Zongo being lifted out of the doldrums of poverty. Why haven't you achieved the aim of this particular ministry 10 good months down the line?
So interesting. First of all, anything that you decide to do, you look at the past to present and then focus into the future.
I see.
Since time immemorial, inner city and Zongo development have been left behind in the development agenda of every government.
Really?
Ask.
Are you asking?
Find out.
Are you saying that it's a deliberate policy to do so?
Well, I believe various governments have made various attempts, but not to the maximum. Kwame Nkrumah attempted. If you check Nima, how come were the people of Nima sent to Medina?
Yeah.
Medina was born out of Nima. You see how it is?
Yeah.
Nima was born out of Tudu and Adabraka. Even Makola, if you trace the root of Makola, it was northern, Zongo people were living there. They were butchers. And so they were people who used to roast these skins of the cow and the head. And so in Ghana, I'm not very perfect in Ghana, but the point is that me and Makola, I'm going to fetch fire. You trace the roots. Adabraka, Tudu gave birth to 441, that's Ruga. So you see that if you go to Ruga today, even in houses, they rear cows. It has been their profession. And then when Nima was getting so overpopulated and closer to the presidency, His Excellency, the first president of this country, thought he had to resettle them, create a better place for them. And in doing so, he decided to locate them in Medina. That was around, 63, 65. But unfortunately, he didn't live to see the light of day. You know, various governments came, they made various attempts till it got to 79. Then Rawlings came up, left and brought in Liman. Liman did a bit, but Rawlings came back. Rawlings attempted, that is the beginning of the creation of constructing the Nima Highway. All in attempt that they consulted them and give a good life. But unfortunately, the Zongos that you see, if one wants to give you the genesis, you realize that the beginning of Zongo was at the outskirts of town. Today, they are in the central heart of every town. So, and the word Zongo means a traveler's temporal residence, the temporal residence of a traveler. So it was like our great-grandfathers, our forefathers were more or less traders and were propagators of Islam. And they didn't want to mingle themselves with people in town. So they were outskirts of town. But as civilization kept on changing, gradually there was also expansion and explosion of population. And then by the time you realize, they found themselves in the heart and the middle of every town. So you realize that you come to see that even the architecture of Zongos is different from what happens in the elite communities. But gradually, having studied all this, Rawlings did his part, then came President Kufuor, he also attempted. Then finally, we had a Tamil scheme, then John Mama. But having studied all these problems, His Excellency during the campaign, he didn't say he was going to create a ministry.
Yeah.
He said he was going to establish a fund. So after the campaign, having won power, then he realized that a fund is just like a river. River is dry. You know, because you can establish a fund. At a point, it gets exhausted. So he thought that no, if I do that, that means after I leave and the fund gets exhausted, it will be forgotten. The best thing to do, because the Zongos that we are seeing are not just numbered. What we are thinking about, the number, is just at the tip of the iceberg. You had a few Zongos in the past. Today, they've spread all over the country. Every region you go, every district, you find Zongos. So in order to be able to arrest the problems of the inner city and Zongo communities, he thought it wise to say, look, I'll establish a ministry. So it is like problem or target specific. I'm going in for this. Let me tackle, hold the bull by the horn. And so that is precisely what His Excellency taught. Because in the past, there have been various development agenda programs like Urban 1, Urban 2, Urban 3, Urban 4, and so on. Yet, though the intent was to develop the area, its impact was not so much felt in the inner city and Zongo communities.
Okay, so now, how do you distinguish the inner city concept from the Zongo communities in this case?
Well, you see, when we're talking of Zongo, they are more well structured. Inner city, if you want to check, you find out that these are communities highly deprived, you know, and distressed, where you have about 2 to 20 or 30 people living in a room. There are places where you find that they are...
There are places that these are also Zongos, to be clear.
No, they are not Zongos. If you take a place like Choko, Choko is not a Zongo.
Yes, I'm saying that there are places
they have similarities.
That the inner cities are rarely a replica of the Zongos that we have.
Yes, you have similarities. There are differences and there are similarities. You see how it is, because when you check, you realize that in terms, there are 4 areas that I can tell you that they are very common in the Zongos and inner cities. Poverty. There's so much high prevalence of poverty, illiteracy, disease, and unemployment. And you realize that the level and the height of crime is so high in these 2 communities because poverty and crime are bedfellows. They move in parallel lines. They move in tandem. And when you check, you come to realize that what I'm saying is a fact and it's true. So at the end of the day, most of the things that I'm talking about, you realize that...
So you would develop Choko the same way you have to give attention to
absolutely.
Adina,
absolutely.
Nima.
Yes. Right now, as I talk to you, we are engaged in talks with the World Bank concerning the inner cities. Now, if you check, almost all those living along the Odo channel
Yeah.
are inner cities. They are not Zongus.
Yeah, I get you.
Yes, exactly. If you take the Korle Lagoon, I remember in the past when I was the Minister for Works and Housing, we had a CLEP project, that is Korle Lagoon Ecological Restoration Project. So most of the people there, a place like Agboglushi is not a Zongo.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an inner city.
I get your point.
And you could check, most of it is by either economic reasons, colonial masters through segregation decided to push people to a particular point. All those things are taken into consideration. And we should be happy and praise His Excellency for that decision. It is the first of its kind in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa.
I'll get you, but let's be clear. How many Zongos do we have in this country?
Well, for now, as of 2007, I carried out a research work, and it was 365.
10 years later, we are in 2017.
These are Zongos with popular names. But 10 years down the lane, in statistics or mathematics or economics, if you take a margin of error, plus or minus 5%, you should be talking over 600 plus. But precisely if you want to take...
Yes,
if you want to take
the Honourable Minister for that particular sector,
yes,
for a specific figure, and I would want to believe that by now you know.
Let me tell you, this is what I'm telling you. If you take 10 years down the lane,
yes,
and you go into mathematics, you take just a limit of a margin of error of plus or minus 5%, you are talking of 690 something. But I can assure you that Zongos in Ghana today are over 1,000.
Over 1,000?
Yes, because if you
is there
go
a study
to
that's established that?
We are going to carry out a study. I carried out a study in 2007.
That's way too long a period.
It's too long a period.
I get you.
But
my point is that...
I can give you like floods.
I get
if you check floods in Ghana, check every 10 years. Serious floods happen in Ghana every 10 years.
That's true.
So you see, I take this, first of all, from my past study. And now we need to engage, having established the ministry. Within 10 months, I cannot tell you exactly the number of Zongos in Ghana.
That's actually the
question. We need to engage the services of either consultants that will be given this assignment to carry out the whole country. That means you need to go, because if I develop your Zongo...
Forgive me, wouldn't that be more instructive that if 10 months you've done nothing at all?
We haven't done. We've done something. Listen,
I get you, but if that
don't say nothing at all.
I'm saying that if you have not done anything at all,
yes, okay,
you should have actually mapped out the problem, gotten to know the places called Zongos, inner cities, put them in a way that anybody can access that data. That ought to be accessible to, so that it will inform the decisions that you are making in this particular ministry in a more instructive manner.
If you care to know,
yes.
Immediately I was appointed and vetted.
Yeah.
The first thing I started was to go around the whole country on conscientizing the people and making sure that every place I went, I acquainted myself to know the Zongos around.
I know you have a background in economics. I also know you've done finance at some point in time.
Yes.
That's not in doubt. What I'm actually asking is that I was expecting that your ministry would have engaged, be it the statistical service or any other grouping, to have mapped out the entire country, gotten to know the Zongos in a much more distinct form.
Oh, you see, this is what I'm coming to.
Because it is important data for your work.
Don't jump the gun. You see, you normally have to don't place the cart before the horse.
I'm confused because
you are going, because you are going far.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was basic data.
Look, everything must be in a systematic order.
I get you.
First of all, I have a technical team. Like I told you right from the outset, that we are engaged with the World Bank, doing a discussion. My technical team are working along the Odo channel and will tell you the number of settlements along the Odo channel.
You have to tell me that.
Yes. Because we are going to...
Because we are in 2017. 2 years ago, Sebastian Kiavle and Professor Sonsori actually did that particular work. That book is out there.
On what?
On the what they call Colin Lagoon, what they call restoration program. And
when did they do the study?
They did actually. They studied right from up the hill, Brie, straight down to what they call.
And I'm asking, when did it happen?
2 years ago.
I was the minister. I started the project. 2007.
Yes, I'm saying that.
I'm coming.
Their study is 2 years ago.
2007, I started the Colin Lagoon Ecological Project.
Yes.
And I made it very clear to this country. Look, we have 9 particular areas when it comes to flooding in the whole of Greater Accra. These are the points. I can show it to you.
I get you.
Now, 2, in the past, it takes 12.5 hours to get the whole of Accra flooded when it rains. Today, you know the number of hours?
No.
It's 4 hours. 4 hours. Even if it drizzles, you'll find the central Accra getting flooded. Because, 1, Accra is below the sea. Accra is below the sea level. So any water that comes does not go straight into the sea. It bounces back. 2, all the water comes from the mountains and various points and gets Accra. If you don't, it's not a matter of just going and say these are the number of people along the drain. You must get the details. This is what solves the problem. Now, there's a study that is telling you that to solve the whole Accra problem, flooding problem, you are talking between $10 to $12 billion. There's a study on it. So you see, most of these
I'm
things...
looking at you in a way that says that recently, and in 2014, I heard Samson Ahi, who's also been in the same industry, actually quoting 500 million, what they call it, US dollars.
Go and check. Go to Ministry of Finance. You see, sometimes we are not... The reason
but
why
fair,
we suffer...
The Conti project actually cost 625 million US dollars. The Conti project. When it was launched by the Professor Nelson
I don't know much about Conti.
Conti was virtually improving. It was virtually based on your Colin Lagoon ecological restoration program.
Yeah, what I know was to do with my international region.
I see.
I started that project talking about relocating people in Agbubulushi and other places to Ajinkotoku. But the project was abandoned along the way. And that was how I came to say that, look, what happened in the past 2 years, and Accra was flooded and people died. You remember when there was this...
the June 3rd event.
June 3rd event. I said, look, Ghanaians, we always believe in God. And so we wanted to push the problem onto force majeure, that it was God's making. And I said it was not, no, it wasn't so. Because if you check the drains, they were silted. And once a drain is silted, the little downpour, the place gets flooded. It's not gone down. Most of our lakes, Volta Lake, immediately rains more, you see the level of the water going up. We are being deceived. We have not dredged. Go to London, UK, Thames Water. You find barges on the river, constantly dredging to keep the water level at a certain height. As soon as it goes beyond that height, they open the channel and it recedes to the level they want. Africa or Ghana, we can do same. But it is a matter of commitment and management.
I get your point. Honorable, I still want to keep my eyes on the Zongo's numbers.
Yes.
So we don't know the number of Zongos in the countries.
For me, right now, I can tell you, I don't want to be a liar.
I get you.
And I've told you that if you take a margin of error, we are talking of 600 plus.
Almost 1,000.
Almost 1,000.
I get you.
But to confirm my figure, okay, we need to commission.
When is this commissioning happening?
Immediately. Right now, we've had a budget.
When you say immediately?
Yes. Now we are discussing budget in Parliament.
Your budgetary allocation of over 200 million was sitting in your account in the last 10 or so months.
Yeah.
What has been happening to that money?
Oh, but if a bill, what we are talking has not been approved,
you can't spend without...
You can't spend. You see...
So the ministry has been doing virtually nothing
like
without the approval.
You see, it's like a banker.
Yeah.
You see a cashier in the bank, she sees plenty money, or sees plenty money, he or she, counting and giving people. It's not her money. It's like a chicken seeing guinea corn in a bottle, but it cannot peck.
That's
exactly what is happening.
That's interesting to know. So when are we going to get commission do this job?
Like I told you, as soon as possible. ASP, because
We
right
have a
now
date for it?
I'm calling my technical team together.
Okay.
We need to sit down and plan it very well. We have certain programs that will be rolled out immediately. Those ones we don't need to take. I mean, I know every constituency. I know every member of parliament. I want to know, on a rough assessment, how many Zongos do you have? If you tell me, I'll take it up. We'll collate everything. And now these people will then be commissioned to go straight to
You don't have a date
begin
for
to.
it. Will it start next year?
Yeah, sure. I don't think we'll start
Because
the
we are virtually
assessment.
closing the year, actually.
We are closing the year, but we'll start the team this year, so that we are in November. December, we have the team together. Then they can roll out. And I believe by the first quarter of next year, we should be able to get, a concrete or specific number. Then I'll feed you with it.
How much is your budgetary allocation for 2018?
100 million.
100 million?
Yes.
Excluding compensation?
It's a total budget for the ministry. Therefore, compensation is there, it's goods and services.
Yeah.
We have capex.
Okay.
Everything lumped together.
Let me break it down.
Okay, break
How
it down
much
for me.
is capital expenditure on your budget?
Well, per my assessment, my capital expenditure should be around 85 million. You see how it is?
Yeah, I get you, but how about the goods and services?
It comes under 85. 50, you have about 25 or so.
All right. Yeah. So compensation?
You have 85 that takes care of the entire goods and services and capex.
Okay.
You see,
right.
compensation will take the balance of the 85 out of the 100.
That's interesting.
But when you are talking of other salaries of the technical people and so forth, that comes under the consolidated fund.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, let me look specifically at this issue. So, how much is going into the Zongo Development Fund next year, since we have had second year running?
Right. You see, for me, I'll tell you not the number lost, but the number that can be affected. Because the amount of money is said that we need to spread it in a way that we tackle Zongos based on the mandate given and inner city. Right now, inner city as we speak, we are expecting about $60 million.
200 million this year, 2018 budget for Zongo development.
2018 budget, I've told you, is 100 million.
I'm talking,
How many ministries have been able to get up to 100 million?
Not for, I'm talking about what they call it, specifically for the fund.
Yeah. Well, the seed money,
yes.
You see, we shouldn't misconstrue what the fund is about. They said a seed money of $50 million, that is the equivalent, which is about 219.5.
Okay.
Right. That is seed money. That is the contribution of Ghana government. Now, we expect that once that contribution has been done, now we are expecting support from development partners like the World Bank, UNDP, EU, ADB, and the rest. You see how it is. We also expect support from our bilateral relations from countries where we have economic and technical cooperations with, like UK, Germany, Russia. You can talk of other countries like African countries. I think it's fair to
put them together as bilateral partners.
relation countries, Japan and so forth. Now, all these people are people or countries that are prepared to support us. That God helps those who help themselves. So if our country has made a token support fund by contributing this, we expect these other partners coming on board. We expect corporate entities, companies coming. You as an individual can also contribute to the fund. You see how it is. So it is the support that we get that will roll out a lot of support. And we believe there are a lot of people standing by, even within Zongos, who want to give out their monies to support. But they don't want to come out openly to say, oh, I want to do this road. But he will channel his support, but will tell you specifically, this is what I want you to use my fund for.
Well, that's interesting to know. When we're back from this break, we'll continue exploring what the agenda for 2018 is for the Inner Cities and Zongo Development Ministry. You're welcome back. This is UPfront. My guest today is the Minister for Inner Cities and Zongo Development. Recently, I'm sure you heard it, the Zongo Development Fund was finally, the bill was finally passed in the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. This ministry is supposed to uplift and actually develop the places where we have the extreme poor, as we were told, living in this republic. The Honorable Abubakar Siddiq is actually my guest today. Honorable, we're leaving off on the note of me asking you what's been happening. And you're talking about the plans for actual development of these zongos and the rationale behind that. Now, 2017 has virtually ended. Let's look into 2018. What's the plan?
Thank you very much. First of all, in establishing a ministry, you must be able to indicate its core mandates. And the ministry is mandated to focus on 4 or 5 thematic areas. And these are infrastructure and sanitation enhancement, economic empowerment, social development, cultural promotion, and of course, security and crime control.
These are big words for the ordinary person.
I'll explain that.
Yeah.
I'll break them down. You see, when we're talking of infrastructure, we'll be talking about things like roads, not roads that Ministry of Roads and Highways would do. These are small roads. We're talking of small drains, connecting secondary drains or peripheral drains within the community. But the major drains like storm drains are the rules and jobs of Ministry of Works and Housing and Roads and Highways. And when it comes to helping to put up clinics, I mean cheap compounds, or rehabilitating schools within the Zongos and inner city, or building new schools, we need to collaborate with the sector ministries. So infrastructure-wise, these are some of the things. And you see that...
I will not worry, because you have mentioned infrastructure. Can we drill down to you telling me, for example, in Sawaba, how many schools, how many CHIPS compounds, if any, are they going to get in Sawaba? Should Sawaba expect that all of its linked small roads be fixed by the end of the year 2018?
Well, first of all, I'll say no. We need to be very objective. I'm not a liar politician. I'll tell you the truth. The point is that Sawaba is not the only Zongo in this country. And I'm not going to push all my funds into one sector. When you do that, you got to spread your portfolio. Because maybe the immediate problem that Sawaba needs could be a clinic. Another Zongo needs water. Another Zongo has a parcel of land that can be converted into a park, a community park.
But have we mapped out these things? Have we been able to
tell me whether... The areas that have been so far during my conscientization or stakeholder consultations, some have been mapped out. And so it will not be difficult to start with those places.
I see how it is. So, for example, how many hospitals do you expect that you put up?
Oh, for now, I can't be a liar. I've seen some areas that need clinics and hospitals. So, but
how about
for now, that money, 100 million, cannot build one hospital.
That's true.
100 million
but that money actually can get a couple of cheap compounds.
Yeah, maybe we'll be building 2-3 cheap compounds. For some places. And then, once collaborating with Ministry of Health, we'll finish, they'll help us with nurses to take care of the places.
The difficulty with some of these Zongos is that they're actually in the middle of cities. So, access to other facilities is not limited at all. So, for example...
But don't forget, I don't know whether you've checked from statistics. Zongo women in other places die faster or earlier than other women in other religious beliefs.
Do we know why?
I'll give you a reason. The Muslim woman who finds herself very committed per the religion finds it very difficult to go to a male doctor for examination.
That's interesting.
But if you have a cheap compound or a clinic and you have a lot of nurses, women nurses, she would prefer going to the closest clinic that has those nurses should be examined. All after examination is to submit the report to the male doctor or whoever is the medical officer there, and then can prescribe the necessary drugs. So you see, some of these things are not being revealed, but some of us can get it clear. And so, first of all, it's a matter of encouraging our children to go to school. Yeah. And I have to commend Nanado for introducing free SHS. Because right now, a parent who finds it very difficult to send a child to school now sees that her son or her daughter can go to SHS free of charge. Though there's never free lunch in America, nowhere. At least if the government is providing for every facility, you can also prepare shelter for your son or child who is going to school. So you incur a little cost in that aspect. So these are things that we need to encourage our people. Through that, a lot of our children can go to nursing schools.
But, Honorable, these Zongos are also in districts. Yeah. They are not on their own. What is it that the districts are failing to do, the assemblies? What is it that, for example, 1 million per constituency cannot do that you would have to complement? And how are we sure what you are going to do, let's say, in Nima, will not be a duplication on what is being planned for the constituency that Nima falls within by the 1 million per constituency, what they call it,
don't
ministry,
feel,
which really is housed in the same enclave.
It will help me, but what I want to tell you is that all ministries need to cooperate, collaborate, and coordinate. That is the 3 C's.
It's very important.
So if I'm going to do a project, let's say I'm going to construct a road in a particular community, I need to confer with the Minister for Roads and Highways. I have held various discussions. I commend the Minister for Roads and Highways. Almost every other day, the Minister will engage me. When are you bringing the list? I have commissioned through the urban routes, throughout the country, all Zongos in this country, they should give me estimates of their routes. You see how it is? Then I submit it to the Minister for Roads and Highways. He is not going to do all at the same time, but at least we'll choose a few for him to undertake. If it comes to water, so that we don't waste money, I collaborate with my Minister for Water, for Sanitation and Water. And you tell me, I'm going to do water in these areas. I say, okay, this area that you are not doing, I take charge of it. So the issue of 1 million, one constituency, that 1 million will not be enough to solve the problem of every constituency.
Yes, I also know that.
Take the case of my constituency, Medina. You have a typical Zongo. Yeah. The entire Medina is supposed to be a Zongo. But you have elite areas.
That's true.
And you have other areas that the 1 million can also. I take a place called Boga Town. They don't have good roads. They don't have drains. How much would that money do? So if I get that money, I would have preferred to invest in a place like Boga Town, Tema, in those areas to help them. Wise part of the Zongo Fund also goes to Medina. So you have spread your portfolio. So we need to look at it carefully. You see, sometimes people think that the fact that 1 million has been mentioned, and so a ministry is going there, you'll be doing a duplication of things. No. That is where proper management and coordination comes in. You are Minister for Water and Sanitation. All I need to do is that, please, what are you going to do for this constituency or this district or this municipality? It tells you the number of water. Assuming I'm giving 10 boreholes. 10 boreholes will not be enough because Medina is composed of urban and rural. Yeah. There are parts of the communities of Medina that is rural. So some of these places will need boreholes and other things. Then the understanding comes in.
I get your point.
But let's look to Zongo proper. Because I want to tell you there are certain things. I want to do parks, football parks, greening
in the
Zongos.
Are there lands available for that?
Where I mentioned earlier from the outset that where we find a parcel of land that belongs to the community, and the community comes to an understanding that this is our land. We want you to use it as a park. That will converge all the people there. We'll convert it into a park raise, what do you call it, ensure that the whole place is greened. You have floor lights. Even community occasions, funerals, outdooring, weddings can be held there instead of blocking roads.
It looks like the intervention, and looks like your interventions are more infrastructure oriented.
Not infrastructure. You haven't given me the opportunity to explain.
I'll come to the other ones,
yes.
But I mean, solving a communal problem. I want to know specifically. Yeah. You have mentioned some of the infrastructure needs that you're going to. There's those who are propounding that, just like Nkrumah envisaged, we need to redesign and redevelop these areas. Yeah. In the interim, just like we thought to do with Abu Bloshi, we need to relocate the people because where they live and the conditions under which they live, the structures within which they live are awaiting disasters. Do you agree?
I agree with you. But let me tell you that for every program, you have short-term, medium-term, and long-term. I will not take one day to go and clear the whole of Nima. You see how it is? You have to engage them, come to a consensus. I'll give you a typical example. A place like Nima, the short-term program or medium-term program you can hold is maybe there are people living along the road and you think if you engage them, they will agree with you. You can have a PPP arrangement with them. You as the third party, you're going to be a guarantor for the people to ensure that you bring the businessman and the landlords together. Okay, maybe they signed a lease agreement, 30 to 50 years. I'm going to build a high scraper. Because we here, we don't maximize the land. And so that land, that belongs to you. You have passed it through me to a third party who is the investor. I stand in for you. Then he builds maybe 10 stories. And
the guarantee is that it will go to the Zongo people,
let me land. He builds 10 floors or 10 stories. He says, okay, I give 1 floor to you if you want to stay there. 1 floor. But looking at the structure, you say, no, I'll rent it out. But the rent will come to you, the income will come to you. At the end of the day, you have a term of about 30 years or 50 years maximum, where the whole property reverts back to you, whether alive or dead, because you have signed an agreement, a lease agreement with him. This is what is happening all over the world. So what prevents us from doing it? But you need to get the consensus and understanding of the people.
Do you have a plan to do that?
Of course, yes.
When?
Not immediately, because you have to engage the people and let them understand
like
where the concepts. Well, I won't tell you in how many years, but even if it is within 2 years, people agree, we will begin that. Okay. But we will not impose it on them, because it is the fellow's property, he has title on it, but you want to change the whole of the place. You need to engage the people, the landlords, and talk to them. If they come to a consensus, you register every house, and now you can bring in an investor. Okay. So these are things you need to arrange. Okay. So that falls under infrastructure.
So yes, that will sum up the infrastructure part. Yes. You also talk about other things, and you also
I was talking of economic empowerment.
How is that going to be done?
Yeah, there are a lot. When you go to the Zongos or inner cities, we have a lot of people doing businesses. Yeah. People don't know how to keep simple profit and loss account books. You need to take them through. You hear people, they have money, they are doing business. In a matter of 2-3 years, the business fizzles out. Why? Because he calculates his profit in even the working capital. As soon as you give somebody a contract, 1 billion, 1 million Ghana cedis, he has forgotten that he has to invest. He thinks everything is profit. He begins to buy certain things, and in no time, the whole thing breaks down. But you need to take them through, educate them well. Even business plans. People are working, they need loans from the bank, but because they don't have people to guide them to prepare better business plans, they go and they are rejected. But our duty will be to help people raise good business plans. Also ensure that one of the models that I want to introduce is to ensure that every Zongo, when the time comes, maybe pick a few people, engage a university or a consultancy. They give them about 3 months to 6 months training on business entrepreneurship. So at the end of the day, you have people within the Zongo community understanding business and how to handle businesses. And when we are talking of Zongo, you see, today, the past Zongo is not today's Zongo. Today's Zongo it comprises of many ethnicities, many religions, and it's a deprived community. These features can be found in the current Zongo. But the most common language spoken is Hausa.
Okay.
It is the common factor, the linkage factor. You go to Nima, you have an Ewe, you have a Ga, you have an Akan, all tribes. But the commonest factor that links all these people is Hausa. So you find a Ga speaking Hausa and you know that he's not a Hausa person.
Okay.
Religion-wise, you find out that when you go to Nima, you have a church sharing a common border with a mosque.
That's true.
But the predominant religion there is Islam.
Yeah.
We understand it is only Ghana that has exhibited this kind of chemistry with Christians, traditional practitioners, Muslims living together as one family. No problem. In other countries, let me tell you an example. Boko Haram is not about Islam. It's about themselves. Boko Haram had existed in Nigeria since 1903. Because of their vulnerability, there was a theologian, we call him Metasine. He took over. And they supported him. They were following him everywhere he went. But when he died, they became so vulnerable. And some politicians took over. Now they've grown over and above the politicians. At a point, you wanted to hide under the cover of Islam to claim that they wanted to take over Nigeria, make Nigeria an Islamic state. How? The whole country is predominated by Muslims, but nobody there has claimed. But today, as I speak, all boils down to poverty. Boko Haram has gone beyond the borders of Nigeria. They are now in Algeria, Niger, Mali, now they are in Burkina Faso. So if we don't arrest that similar problem, it's not about bringing a lion's kid to the house and growing it as a pet, but when it grows, it is a carnivore. It will end up when it begins to smell your blood.
So the threat is there.
So the threat is there. So I believe that, you see, look, I'll give you examples. Look at Mamubi, Abelempe, Nima, Kotobabi, Kanda. They are also, close to an elite area, residential areas. How will you feel? They share only, the demarcation is just the street, Obasanjo Road. And they see what happens here. Lights 24 hours, water 24 hours, roads, asphalt. Then you cross to the other side, Sakura Road. No water. Lights are erratic. How will they feel? But His Excellency is saying that, look, we are all one people coming from one nation. We have a common destiny. Okay. He's not saying we should get everything equal, because even the fingers are not equal.
I get you.
But at least you must give the people their due.
All right. So how much will be dedicated to these, what they call empowerment and economic development part?
I can't give you the figures now.
Okay.
Because we are going to work out.
I get you the point.
So what you should know is that there are people that will empower, who will train, like women.
Are you looking at a specific number?
There are others. Yeah, we'll come to these numbers, but I won't mention it now.
I get you. Yes. So two things are very clear.
There are some, let me tell you, who will have master craftsmen who will send people to train. When they pass out, we'll give them the tools.
Two things have been clarified now. Infrastructure, economic empowerment. Is there a threat of young people who have gotten into bad company, young people who are actually engaged in internet fraud, who may not be willing to now learn new crafts or something small like that? How would you deal with that phenomenon?
I'll give you an example. Russia, Britain, these hackers are caught once they know that you are a hacker. They will come and pick you up, go and put you down. We don't say you are enemy to the state, but use your brain and create something for the government.
You won't treat them as enemies.
We won't treat them as enemies. You are a hacker, okay? Everybody in the community knows that you are a hacker. You go into people's accounts. But all we need from you is that use your brain to invent something that will place the country at a higher height.
But what we are talking about is...
The country can engage you and tell you that I want you to do A. Okay. Russia, that is what they do.
So to you, a better way of dealing with the internet fraud is not to throw the baby away with the bathwater.
No, no. If you sit down and talk to them, at least, and you give them a proper treat, and put all of them, we are not arresting them, but we are putting, let's say we pick all of you and send you to a school. We'll lock you up there. Come out with your brains. Do something better for this country. Because if you have that brain to be able to hack into somebody's account, then you can use that brain positively for the economy. These are some of the things we need to be thinking about. All right,
I get your point. I mean, I'm seeing how when you roll this out, because it looks like...
You see, these are ideas that we need to bring up.
Okay.
You know, and then we can see how we can actualize it.
All right. Yes. Now,
all that we are speaking, the 100 million cannot cover it.
That's true.
Yes. But a journey of 1,000 miles begins with what?
Of course, it has to begin somewhere.
So once we start somewhere, I believe we'll get to the point.
So economic is dealt with, infrastructure is dealt with. Is there any other issue
social
that is
development.
peculiar?
Yeah.
What is the difficulty with social development?
We are looking at schools, education of the child in the Zongo community. I believe there are many ways. In those days, if you post teachers to the Zongo communities, they always are not willing to go. Somebody will turn it down. Say, Zongo, no. But we need to introduce...
The fear attacks.
Yeah. We need to introduce some incentives, some strategies, some schemes to make it more attractive for people to go to Zongos. If I introduce something like the Best Zongo Teacher Award, that will encourage the teacher to give his best. And if the best student from the Zongo can be given a scholarship. You see how it is? The best teacher can be awarded. So if I award you for being one of the best teachers in Zongo, coming up with one of the best students in Zongo communities, we want Zongo community to be more attractive to people. It shouldn't look more of a place like a den where people fear to enter. All these things are things that we are thinking. Non-formal education. We link up with non-formal education and teach people, you know, to also understand. You know, in Nigeria, when you go to Nigeria, because of the pidgin, which we never supported, every person in Nigeria understands English through the pidgin English. Ghana, we want it more formalized. And I believe when we start these 9 schools for most of the adult people, it will help us. We should not encourage pidgin English, no. We should go by the normal formalized English. Just get something that will help you in your communications. Most people are businessmen, but they find it very difficult to communicate. All these things are things that on board we can help. And the social development, I mentioned about this regenerative health. That is sports.
Okay.
Basketball.
Oh, I see.
We have basketball, we have football, we have boxing. The best African footballers of this country were all Zongo people. The first 3 in this country, the whole of Africa, are all from Zongo. Golden Boy Razak, Abedi Pele, Ibrahim Sandi. Tell me another person. So you see, there are certain wealth, treasure, hidden in Zongo. But we tend to forget about it. And the president is saying, look, let's go mine that treasure. So if you produce all these things, instead of them going to sit down to think about hacking and all those things, there will be a convergence point. People will want to go. You know, Ghana, we love football. Everybody by 3:34 is moving to that point. And so all these things are things that will help us, you know, to be able to achieve our motive. And so we have various arrangements that have been made. Gradually, we'll be rolling it out and to help.
By the end of the year 2018, what should we have seen on the grounds to show that you're actually doing the work you said you do?
Yeah. We also have cultural promotion, and we have security and crime control. I can assure you by the end of 2018, most of these things I've spoken about, we'll see them. We are rolling out.
Oh, wow. Implemented on the grounds?
Yes.
That's too ambitious.
It's not ambitious. I'm telling you, if I'm talking about regenerative health, I'll make sure that football parks are created all over. Places where there's no litigation. We green the park. We give them floor lights.
So I can play back the sound and ask you what you have
done. I will
done.
expect you to come back and praise me on your television to tell them that Sadiq said You'll be getting green parks. You'll be getting a few turf parks. You'll be rolling out 3,000 Arabic instructors. Okay, you'll be doing some
But you are
drills,
specific with the number
alleyways.
of Arabic instructors you are
How
going
for
to do.
Arabic instructors is specific.
Yeah, you know the number.
It's 3,000.
But I don't know the number of chip compounds you
No,
provide.
no.
You don't know the number of schools
No,
you provide.
You see, there are
You don't know
things
the
that you
number
can
of-
easily, tangible,
Okay.
you can pick.
Yeah.
That one is easy. The intangible ones, you don't make the mistake to say, I'm going to provide you with maybe 100 football parks. I'll be a liar. Is there money for that? Because if I quantify the cost of one, okay, if I quantify the cost of one park, I can't do 100 at a go.
So we can't hold you to not doing any at all.
I will do. Don't say any at all.
Because, I mean,
all those
you
I've
can't be-
mentioned, infrastructure, you see, the point you should remember, I want you to get
But these
it
are
clear.
bold and ambitious things.
What is the essence of the budget?
Yes, the budget is to figure out what you're going to do in the
So
course
I
of
look
the
at
year.
my budget. Budget is about your expected expenditure
Yes.
and anticipated revenue. And I've been given an income of this amount. So it is left to me to know how much will go into this particular project, how much will go into this particular sector. At the end of the day, I should be able to achieve it. And I've already mentioned a few that will be rolled out. And you find the results immediately.
Okay, so in the end of 2018, could we have said that the livelihoods of people in the Zongos and inner cities would have improved very much?
Hopefully. I can't say it will improve to a certain level, not that much that maybe we expect, because 4 years is just a short term. It's too short to say the impact will be felt everywhere. But you see signs and certain projects that will be acceptable to the Zongo communities. I wouldn't take a project to a Zongo community when it is not being accepted and it's not their choice. And that is where we are taking the problem to them. We want to engage them. Tell us your problem. That's where the needs assessment comes in. We need to hear from you. Tell us your problems. We'll pick it up.
In July, you said that the implementation of the Zongo Development Fund was going to start in August. It didn't happen.
I didn't say in August. You see, can you quote me? I never said it. Because the point is that the fund, we're supposed to build a document.
Okay, but that's not even sent the document to Parliament yet.
And send it to Parliament for Parliament to examine, okay, and then discuss it. If you remember, when I placed the bill before Parliament, I withdrew it in 2 terms, on 2 occasions. The first laying, in a short period, it was referred to the committee. I saw certain problems. I honorably sought the permission of Mr. Speaker and withdrew it. Went and engaged my technical people, the Attorney General's department, you know, to sit down and scrutinize the whole thing properly. Because I have found myself in that situation before. If you remember, I started the youth policy in this country. But it took close to 10 years to get it passed.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have a similar experience, because after me came my colleague, my friend Akomia. Then under NDC, almost 5 ministers came down the lane. Okay. Finally, it was my junior brother Haruna, Honorable Haruna, who got it passed.
I get you.
And so I didn't want a similar thing to happen. I withdrew. We did a proper sanitizing the whole paper, then resubmitted it. And I can say it's one of the fastest bill to have been passed this year.
We will hope to see the action on the grounds in the coming year. But thank you so much, Honorable, for joining us on today's edition of UPfront. And if we see the evidence, we'll report it.
Wonderful. And even if you don't report, I'll look for you.
That's interesting to know. Well, folks, that's where we tie the nice ribbon on today's edition of UPfront. My name is Raymond Alkwa. My guest is the minister who's been responsible for inner cities and Zongo development. You heard the ambitious long list. We'll all be marking whether he does them in the course of the year. Thank you so much for joining us today.